I'm Cam, and Brooke is with us today on the show, on the Render
Hey guys.
podcast. We're so excited to talk all about design trends today. So
Yes.
exciting. I think the last time we talked about design trends was in January.
Yeah, beginning of the year.
Yeah, so we are here to talk about spring. We'll probably, I would assume, maybe do this for summer and fall and winter coming up, but we're going to focus on spring trends, what's trending right now in the design space, not only just events, but design in general. So I'm excited to kick
Yeah,
this conversation off.
me too. I know, I feel like we're in such a different space now than we were in January. Like
Yeah.
in January, it was still so unknown. And now we've gotten a lot more inquiries and it feels different. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
feel like it's a different year already, and it's only like 3 months since the beginning
yeah,
of the year.
yeah.
Crazy.
So I can tell the trends and things are all getting happier and it just
Mhm.
feels different.
I don't know if
But
you've been on Instagram Reels or TikTok, but there's a few people who are like posting these videos of saying like the winter blues and like being all down and out, and now that it's warmer out and there's spring, like all of this stuff, they're like, I'm so much happier, and I'm like, I'm always happy. I mean, no matter when, but I feel like spring just makes people happier and more excited for life in general.
yeah, I've felt that so much lately. I'm a big fall girl. I like it when it's cold outside, but something about the like flowers blooming is just everything.
Yes,
It's just like a
it
breath of fresh
gives
air.
life. Yeah, exactly. I love that. Well, Brooke is our content manager here at Render, and she puts this thing together called our monthly moods. Brooke, tell us a little bit about the monthly moods, what it is, all the things.
Yeah, so every month I kind of pull together, I do something for our interiors brand, our education brand, and our events brand. So this is a little bit new for us. So if you have been keeping up with our blogs, we just started posting on each individual website. So if you're ever looking on the render.co, our blogs aren't there anymore. They're now on Render Educate, Render Events, and Render Interiors. So you can find them there. But I do like a monthly mood segment where I go through the events industry and I look up some trends and some things that are happening, some like colors that we're seeing a lot of. As far as interiors, kind of same thing. Those kind of go hand in hand. Just the events segment is a little bit more geared towards our inventory. And then the education one is more of like resources that we found throughout the month that have been helpful for us. And I kind of put them all into a blog post. So I thought I just did one in March. It'd be kind of perfect to go into some of the trends that I've been seeing in interiors. And then I thought maybe Cam could talk through some of her like business resources that she's found. And then we can kind of both talk about events and things that we've been seeing in the event industry. So,
Love it. Let's do it.
yeah. All right. So let's start off with interiors because I just feel like that kind of goes perfectly with rentals. But one of the biggest trends that I've been seeing is pops of green. And I feel like anyone who knows me that's listening to this is probably like, of course, Brooke would say that because it's her favorite color. She's obsessed. But seriously, I've been seeing it not only in my own home, but in lots of other people's homes. But in the blog, what I talked about is seeing green in unexpected places. I've been seeing it in like shelves that are just like old shelves and they've painted their shelf like a pop of green, and I just think that's really cool. It's a unique take on, bringing color into your space instead of doing it on the walls, like maybe doing it on some furniture.
Kaylee actually
Yeah,
just painted one of her, I think it was a dresser. She just
who's
painted Kaylee.
oh yeah,
She just painted a dresser green, and she put it in her dining room, and it's so cool. I love it.
so pretty. I love that. My husband's big on like no paint on furniture. He really likes the natural wood tone, so I don't get to paint much furniture in my house, but I think it's really cool and just like a fun way to bring in color. So, along with that, I would say maybe a trend is just bringing in color into your space, not just green, but bringing in color in unexpected ways. I know that white walls are huge right now. Everyone just wants to paint all of their walls white, but I think it's still nice to bring in that little pop every once in a while. Another trend that I've been seeing is chrome chairs and chrome details. So I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with the like Seska style chairs. That's what Kaylee has in her dining room. They're the caned back and then they have like the chrome legs. But I've been seeing that, I think it's kind of like an 80s trend,
Mm-hmm.
possibly.
I think
But
so.
I've been seeing that come back a lot. Very like um, sleek, I would say, super modern. And then if you guys know about like furniture designers, there's another chair called the Bertoya chair. And if you need to see visuals, you can see all of this stuff on our blog, by the way, in the March Interiors blog.
Which you'll
The
probably
last,
also put in the show notes as well.
yeah, I'll add it there. And then the last kind of interior trend that I've been seeing is we're going towards more of those warm wood tones. I know there for a while everyone kind of really liked that super light plywood vibe, which I still think that is, really cool to use, but I've been seeing a trend of going towards that really warm, like cozy kind of wood tones and kitchen cabinets and all the things. So those are some of the interior trends I've been seeing. Have you been
Okay.
seeing any?
I feel like, and Kaylee knows this about me, I don't go along with the trends in my
Mm,
home. I'm very like a traditional, kind of modern, but traditional. Like, I just keep things the same way. But I also look for statement pieces that will last a long time.
right.
Like, I have those black leather
Amazing.
sofas in my living room, and like I'll probably always have those, and I'll just trend out with the pillows that I put with it, or like throw blankets or like any textiles that I put with it, I can, phase in and out. That's cheaper to phase in and out
Right.
with like a big furniture piece. But I don't know. I usually do like some statement classic piece and then I'll just phase in and out with different textiles.
Pillows and yeah, I love that. My mom actually, she, whenever they built their house, they got these two recliners that are fully like floral, very like, I wouldn't say out there, but they're just very trendy, you could say.
Yeah.
And we talk about it now, and she's like, I really wish we had just gone with something more neutral and then just swap out the throw
Mhm.
pillows because they're already tired of the floral
Yeah.
recliners that they got. And so, yeah, I would say,
That's the biggest thing that I know that I recommend to my interior design clients. We've been doing
mm,
interior design for a few years.
yeah,
We just officially made it a business last year. But what I've always told my design clients who want some like big, bold something, I'm like, let's think about 10 years from now. Like, is
right.
that thing going to be as trendy 10 years from now than it is right now? And usually the response is like, well, I don't know. It could be. And I'm like, okay, but do we want to really spend $5,000 on this chair that maybe in a year or 3 years or 10 years from now, you're going to regret it and you're going to say, dang it, I wish I would have done something different. And so we typically will
Right.
go with some sort of a neutral or some sort of um, a classic piece, like a statement piece that will last a long time. And then I just tell them, hey, what does your normal life look like? Whether the season is Christmas or whether the season is spring, like what is your normal taste? And let's build that into your textiles. And so I know for myself, I have these huge, big storage bins that have like my spring decor in one, and I have my summer decor in the other, and my fall, my Thanksgiving, my Christmas, my like beginning of the year. Surprise, surprise, I own a rental company. I mean, I just like have these different things that I switch out all the
Right.
time. Um,
Decoration.
yeah, I have like so much of it. And so I think it's better to do statement pieces that you know are going to last a long time. You're going to fall in love with it over and over. Like these black leather sofas that I have, they were a pretty penny. They were like $3,000 each. But I know that I'm going to have those for 20, 30, 40 years. Like I'm going to have those for a long time because I invested in the right pieces. And then now I know, like right now on my sofa, I have this like big white woven pillow that's really soft. The kids really love that one because it's soft. And then I have like a throw lumbar pillow that goes right next to it. That's kind of like a textile, like a gosh, I don't know what it would be called. It's like on the tip of my tongue, but it's like a different texture. It has some woven. It's a hand woven like pillow. And then
Right.
on the opposite corner, I have a bold pattern, a black and white pattern pillow, and then I have a pillow that says Prairie Village in it. I was born and raised in Prairie Village, Kansas, and so that's like important to me. And
Cute.
so that's something that's on my sofa right now. But 3 months ago in the Christmas season, I had like the plaid red and or like burgundy and green, and then I had like some Christmassy pillows. And then usually I'll switch out for maybe some pinks in the fall or in the spring, and then I'll put some yellows or something for the summer, and then I'll weave in some of those burnt oranges and yellows and golds into the fall. And so I just switch things out, but I can still keep that statement piece the same thing. And so
Right.
some of the trends that you're saying with the green and with the what like the cane material or
Mhm.
some of those natural wood tones, you can pull that in with your textiles and not
Yeah.
necessarily have to go buy, a big piece. Like you could buy
Yeah.
a leather pillow that's maybe in those warmer tones, and that can bring in those tones and those trends that are happening right now without going and spending, you know,
So
thousands
much.
and thousands of dollars. I mean, certainly you could, but for the
Yeah.
normal person, you can't just go out and buy another sofa. You can't just go out and buy another chair or a whole new dining set, but you can weave in some of those textiles.
Yeah, for sure. And even with paint, like if you paint a wall, that can always be repainted a
Right.
different color. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I would say keeping the trendier pieces to the less expensive items like paint, like you're saying, like pillows, things like that. And then, yeah, having just like a good, nice black sofa that'll stand for 10 years or
Mhm.
more. That's like perfect.
Yeah,
And
I
you
love
can
it.
still have kind of a trendier home too.
Right.
Okay. Well, should we go into some event trends we've been seeing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so basically, what I did is I chose kind of a color of the moment. And I feel like this can be different for each person. Everyone has their own taste, but based off of our inventory and kind of just our floral that we've been doing, I said that our color of the moment was rose. And so I listed some of our pieces that have this kind of rose color in it. And one of my favorite chairs that we have is the Linen Club chair. And it's kind of like this mauve colored, really just super pretty velvet chair.
Mm.
And it kind of just speaks spring to me. It just feels right. I feel like it'd be perfect for like a baby shower or something like that, or even like if a corporate event, wanted to do like a very springy filled event. I feel like that would be perfect for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what other trends have you been seeing other than color? Like have you been seeing anything else?
I mean, that color specifically has been around for a long, long time, and it's
Yeah.
trended in and out over time. But what I
Yeah.
love about that color, the rose, mauve, pink color, is that you can use it so many different ways. Like, it doesn't have to just be through a garden rose. It doesn't have to just be through, different textiles like a linen or things like that. You can use it so many different ways and so many different tones as well. And what I love that you did on the blog is you showed different tones of this rosy color, not just like one.
Right.
And there's so many
It's kind of
different
like
tones of
it could
it.
be more nude, it could be
Yeah,
more peach, it could be more it's kind of like a whole color wheel of rose tinted
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um but yeah, it just feels I also wrote I can go ahead and read this. Rose is a sign of hope. So I looked into like the color psychology of rose and or pink and what it meant. And it says we chose the color rose because of springtime and its pink tones. Pink symbolizes youth, good health, and playfulness. In color psychology, pink is actually a sign of hope. It's a positive color, inspiring warm and comforting feelings in a sense that everything will be okay. And pink also calms and reassures our emotional energies, alleviating feelings of anger, aggression, resentment, abandonment, and neglect. And whenever I read that, I was just like, that is like just perfect for the season of that the world is in, that everything's going to be okay. I don't know. I just think color psychology is really cool. And I think that's something that people who are planning events should really look into more. I don't know. I haven't been here that long. I don't know if anyone has ever come to you guys and said, we really care about like the meaning behind all of these colors. But I think that that is a really cool like thing to look into when you're planning an event, because it really changes the whole mood and like how people feel whenever they walk into the space.
Yeah, totally. I think that's we haven't had someone specifically come to us and say like we chose this because of a certain reason. Not to say
Right.
that they may not have had a specific reason for it,
Yeah.
but that might be something that people can include on quotes like, "Hey, pink is the sign of hope." And so we are hopeful for your marriage and like looking forward to
Yeah.
that or whatever it might be, or hopeful for your event that's successful or whatever you're using that color for. Something that I have seen, and this has stemmed from a long time. So, what I typically look at is fashion trends. Fashion trends usually trickle down to interiors, whether it be for interiors for events or interiors for homes. But
Yeah.
looking at fashion trends and what's happening in New York and LA and Chicago, that's eventually going to trickle down. And you know that we bought out a rental company back in 2017, and their whole buying decisions usually based off of Fashion Week. And so Fashion Week would happen in New York City, and they would either go to Fashion Week or just closely watch it. And they
That's
would
fun.
see what is happening in fashion, like what colors are happening, what textiles, what styles are happening, like how are they wearing it, and then they would go and buy their inventory off of that, and they would call them collections. So they would say the 2016 collection, and it would be framed off of Fashion Week. And so they would use some of those fashion photos and then put their inventory photo right next to it and say, hey, we chose this because of this reason.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing to look into for sure. And we tend to do the same thing. We look at what's trending in the interior space, what's trending in fashion, and how is that going to inform some of our buying decisions, 6 months ahead of now. Um, so I think that's really cool. One thing that I'm seeing is bright, bold colors. And so that
Yeah.
kind of goes back to your pink, is having these bolder colors, these brighter colors at your event or in your home. And so, 10 years ago, people wouldn't have had a big pink sofa next to the dance floor at
Mm-hmm.
their wedding. Well, nowadays, you might actually have that. You might actually have a big pink sofa there. And that's something that's trending. And so that's what I see coming kind of down the pipeline is these bigger, bolder colors and maybe even patterns that are happening at the events and not just in fashion.
Right. Well, that kind of, I did some research, and I think you're going to think this term is really funny, but I found the term grand millennial. And grand millennial is basically granny chic. And you talking about clothes made me think of that, because if you're on TikTok, you've probably heard the thing about Gen Z is saying that millennials, so I might be like really botching this. Gen Zs are saying that you shouldn't wear skinny jeans
Yeah,
and you should have a
I've
middle
heard it.
part or whatever.
I've heard it. I have the middle part, but I will continue to wear my skinny jeans. I'm a
Right,
millennial and I am proud of it.
right.
I'm wearing my skinny jeans right now. I actually don't like the wide leg
Oh my god.
jeans on me at all. Like I have one pair of wide leg jeans, and I only wear them if that's the last choice that I have.
Right. I love the wide leg trend, but what I was gonna say is that with that being said, like this kind of baggy pants style, like chunky tennis shoes is all, if
Mhm.
you really think about it, grandma vibes.
It
Like
is.
if you really think about it.
It is.
And
I'm
so
not here for it at all. I am not enjoying the fashion trend of those things.
of
Okay,
grandma,
side
grandma,
yeah, side thing. I went to Nordstrom the other day, and you can keep this in the podcast episode. went to Nordstrom the other day just to go look for some spring clothes, and I didn't buy one thing because I hated
Oh my
everything.
gosh,
I didn't
no. And
like it at all. I'm like, where's the graphic tees that I want to wear? And where's the
right.
skinny jeans? And where's like the cute tops like I'm wearing right now? I'm like, where are these things? And I could not find
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming less like form fitting and more just like oversized, like
See, as
and
someone who
maybe
works
the
out
time that we're
every
in,
day, I
everything.
want the form fitting. I'm like, I
Yeah,
want to show off what I'm have going on here.
right. Well, so this was saying that Grand Millennial is like it's trending because it's very sentimental and nostalgic for people. And this was also talking about in the home, though it says it's a modern twist on the homey, comfortable design elements found at grandma's house, intended to spark nostalgia and promote tradition. So I just thought that was interesting since we were talking about fashion. Like, I can kind of see that. I mean, me and my husband furnish our whole home with things that are from the 50s and the 60s or whatever. And so that kind of your grandma style is
Yeah,
coming back. We have this like pleated lampshade, and my grandpa called me and he's like, we literally used to have one of those. And I just thought the pleated lampshade was so cool. And he's like, we used to have, that's like all there ever was pleated lampshades
right,
before.
right.
So it's just funny to see how trends kind of come back
They
into
do.
style and everything.
I will say the trend that I hope does not come back is the rustic, shabby chic,
Yeah, I don't like.
burlap lace. I really hope that one does not come back. Watch, in like 10 years, it's going to be back. And I'm gonna be like, no,
Right? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember this. It was bad then. It still is bad.
I mean, I could see like kind of a rustic. I mean, the warm wood tones, I think people would used to classify that as more rustic, but I think it'll come back in a much more modern way, you
Yes,
know? Like
yes.
not necessarily the lace in the mason jars and whatever, but I think it will come back in a very like sleek kind of
Yep,
way, you know?
it very well could. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, what about let's talk about some like business related trends. Have you been seeing
Yes.
anything? Any new?
Well, I mean, every spring, so whether it's March, April, May, we're all like business owners and people who are really just living life. We're springing forward, like we're looking to the future, like what's happening. We're getting excited for summer, summer vacation, summer plans. I just booked a summer ticket this morning to San Diego, which I'm excited
Oh,
about.
fun.
And so there's these trends that happen in business that happen every year. And one of those is looking to the future. Like, what is coming up? What can I be, now that we're a quarter into the year, we just entered into quarter two. And so there's a little bit of kind of push for us as business owners of like, okay, we're already 1/4 of the year done. Like, how are we at on our goals? What are we streaming for? And this year's a little bit different. And we've talked about this internally that, it's hard to kind of predict what's happening this year because of the state of the world with the pandemic and all those things. And while we might be here in Texas where things are open again and things are getting back to normal, I know that we have a ton of listeners that are not in Texas, that are
Yeah.
still in an area. Like we have a ton of people who listen in Canada. Hey guys, to those who are listening in Toronto and Vancouver, BC, people who are listening in Europe, people who are listening all over the world.
Yeah.
And you guys aren't in a space where we are, where our state is open. And so there's still so much unknown. But now that we are in quarter two, and there's a vaccine that's out, and there is stores that are opening, and restaurants that are opening, and events coming back, and all of those things, we have a little bit more, a bigger light at the end of the tunnel. You know how, you go through a tunnel, and as you get closer to the end, that light at the tunnel is very small. And as you get closer, the tunnel light gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you're actually out of the tunnel. I
Yeah.
feel like we are all in this tunnel still. We're just at different spots in the tunnel. And so
Mhm.
here in Texas, with our business, our light at the end of the tunnel is a little bit bigger because we are further along there. But there's still some people who are further back. And while they might see a small little light at the end of the tunnel, they might not be further towards that end like we are. I don't know that there will ever be an end to COVID, because I think it's going to be like the flu. It's just going to be here. We just have
Right.
to learn to live with it. We just have to
Mhm.
figure out, what does business look like? What does life look like with this thing that is happening? And
Yeah.
so, for those who are listening that are not in Texas, that are not in Florida or another state or a city that is not as open, there is hope. There is
Yeah.
goodness coming. And so, now that we're in quarter two, what can we project based on where we're at? What can we project quarter three, quarter four, end of year? What can we project is happening? And how can we get back on those goals? Back when the year started, we didn't have as much information readily available to us as we do right now, with the vaccine and with events coming back and all of that. And so, likely your goals, or what has happened in the beginning of the year or even the end of last year, might have shifted. Like, there's things that might have shifted. We certainly have things on our plans. We were planning on refilming Rental Biz Academy at the end of the month, but plans shifted, life changed, and there was things that needed shifted around. And so, now that we're starting quarter two, it's a great opportunity for you to get back on those goals, to get back to where you started and say, hey, where are we at in these things? And is it still a possibility that this will happen? Or do we need to make some slight changes in order for that to still happen? Like, some of you in Canada, you are hoping to have your events by summer of this year. And that might still happen, but it also might not. And so, we have to figure out, what does our goals look like? And most years we have to look at our goals quarterly, if not monthly anyways. But this year especially, and last year especially, we have to be looking at those more often to see what's going on, because unfortunately the state of the world is going to depend, and our businesses will react based on what is happening in the world. And
Hmm.
so, that's what I'm seeing in business, is that we need to reevaluate our goals based on what is happening to our businesses, and reevaluate who's on our teams, and do we need to hire? Do we need to cut back a little bit more based on where you're at in the world? And so, constantly keeping on those. Not only is it a annual, change that's happening where we're looking forward, but this year especially, looking at changing some of those goals, or at least coming back to those goals again, is something that needs to happen for sure.
Yeah. It's what's nice about a new season is that it kind of feels like a fresh start too,
Yeah,
It's almost like the end of the year type of thing where it's just like, okay, I can take this new season and just start over, start from square one, like
right.
regroup. Everything's gonna be okay. So I
Yeah.
really do. Yeah. I'm sorry for all the other states and countries who aren't opening up yet, but your time's coming. We
Yeah.
promise.
Yes, it will come. It will come. We just have to give it time.
I have a question for you. What do you think? This is kind of on a different note, but I've been hearing that because of COVID, weddings have gotten way smaller. Do you think that weddings are going to continue to stay in these like small, intimate settings for like years to come? Because I know like there for a while, it was kind of like a trend to have a
Mhm.
really big, huge wedding. It like, spend
Invite
a
all
lot
your
of money.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think now it's going to be like lower budgets, less people? What do you think?
I don't necessarily think budgets will change a ton. I think we'll still
Yeah.
see that trend maybe for the next year, just based on the world getting back to normal, or a new normal. But I think you're going to have multiple different people in this boat. You're going to have the people who really love the small, intimate groups, which you've always had that. You've had destination weddings for a long time. We've had
Right.
elopements. We've had micro weddings for a long time. There was just the bigger weddings who had to make that shift last year,
Hmm.
that maybe necessarily didn't want to, but in order to still have their event and their wedding, they had to. And so, I think when it comes to corporate events and weddings and all those things, they are going to look different because of what we've all gone through. And so, the people who may not have been able to travel before, like grandparents or people who had to work on Fridays, and your wedding happens to be on a Friday, things like that, technology is more robust now to where those people can still participate, and your guest count might still be a little bit lower, but they're still
Right.
participating in some capacity. I think you're still going to have the trend of the big weddings. My brother, for example, is getting married this summer, and they're expecting about 300 people at the
Okay.
wedding. And so
Yeah.
you're still going to have these big weddings because naturally there are people, I am one of those included. I like to have a lot of people. I love a big conference. I love a big wedding. I just think it's so fun.
Yeah.
But that's also my personality. I'm a major extrovert. I love people and being around people.
Hmm.
Quality time is one of my love languages. I mean, really, all of the love languages are my love language. I like them all.
We're on the same.
I'm like, I don't know. I like all of them. But I think big events are still going to happen. I don't think they're going to go away. I just think technology is so much more robust now that, like, for example, conferences who might not have had a virtual option before because you had to attend in person, they're going to have the in person, and it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but they're also probably going to keep that virtual option for those who want to
Yeah.
attend. That maybe they're a single mom and they can't have childcare, but they still want to attend this conference, or maybe where they have a side hustle and that's what they're going to the conference for, but they can't take off of their full-time job. And so I think the attendance rate is going to be higher on conferences. You're just now going to add in the virtual option for them.
Right.
So I think there's going to continue to be the micro weddings. There's certainly a personality that likes a small amount of people. But we've also had that for more than just 2020. I think you're just going to have it more readily available.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so interesting. You talking about how now, like conferences and stuff, they'll probably continue to have the virtual aspect too, even once COVID is not really the front of our minds.
Mhm.
But I wonder
Like
if
instead of
people
going in person.
would rather do virtual just because it's easier or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or, less cost. I mean, you're going to have people who like the same thing,
Hmm.
but it also goes down to personality. If I had the option to stay home and save money or go in person and spend a little bit more, I'd probably go in person because that's just the personality that I have and that's what I
Yeah.
like. And so I think
Yeah.
you're still going to have the same maybe amount of people attending. You just might have more people that are doing virtual than going in person because it's now an option. And there's certainly
Right.
going to be conferences that don't give that option, that say, hey, we've done that because we had to, and now we're not going to do that anymore.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, as someone who goes to conferences all the time, I speak at conferences, I attend conferences, I help put on conferences with our company. I
Yeah.
love a conference. It's like one of my favorite things. And I especially love attending a conference because there's something that you get inside that room and something you get inside of those breakout rooms that you can't get in your living room, that you
Sure.
can't get virtually. I went to a few different virtual conferences this past year that I had originally paid to go in person, but because of COVID shut down, I had to do it online. And I didn't get the same takeaways. I didn't get the same heart pull that I did at a conference. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and he was hosting a virtual conference. And he said, I just wish we could be back in person at conferences. And I said, I agree. I'm the same exact way. And he said exactly what I said. There's something that you get inside of a room at a conference, at a big conference, all in one big group setting, or in those breakout sessions that you just can't get on your own in a virtual setting. And so I think it's still going to happen. There's still, I mean, that will still continue to be true, whether
Yeah.
people go virtually or whether they don't. But those who really love the conference and really love getting something out, and we were even talking, I said, even if I'm going for person, like my personality conference or like personal development, I'm probably still going to get something out for my business. I'm probably still going to get a lot out from me personally. If I'm going to a business conference, at least if I take one thing that impacts my business, it was worth it. In every
Yeah.
single conference I've been to, there's been at least one thing that makes me a better person. There was a conference I went to in Vegas in, 2014 or 15 or something. And I wouldn't go back to the conference because it wasn't awesome. It wasn't my favorite conference. I also had been in business for quite some time before then. And this conference is more of a kind of beginners to the events industry
Yeah.
conference. And certainly the networking was great. But the thing that I got out of it may not have been a business tip, or it may not have been something that I could use in my business, But what I got out of it was, hey, I want to speak at this conference. And here's what I'm learning that isn't being covered at this conference that I want to bring to this conference. I was supposed to be a speaker at it in October of this past year of 2020. Didn't happen because of COVID, but I might not have gotten a business tip, but I got an opportunity to say, hey, I have something to offer, and I think you guys could really use this thing.
Yeah.
So, regardless, I think there's still going to be a whole bunch of people that go in person to these conferences because there's something about them that you get that you can't get in your living room or you can't get in your office.
Yeah, it's just like church, I feel like.
Yeah.
Whenever I went back to church for the first time, I was just like, just being here in this room and like the acoustics, like all the things like matter. And
Yeah.
yeah, being at home, there's also a lot of distractions. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like,
You got your dirty counter, you've got
yeah,
floors that need to be swept.
I'm
Yeah.
like trying to make coffee at the same time, and I'm like, I'm not focused.
Yeah.
So I would
Well, even
agree.
when I went back to church in person, I was like, oh my gosh, the ceilings. Like,
I know
look at how
everything is
beautiful the
rehearsal,
ceilings are.
right? We're like, so beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Like, I would have never, like, noticed the ceilings before, but I've been looking at my own house.
right? I
It's
know.
just funny.
One thing I would love to see trend, which maybe it already kind of is in events, is maybe doing more if they're not comfortable with doing large events yet, maybe doing more like kind of more intimate dinner parties or something like that where they invite like 25 people and then they really get to know those people that they've
Mhm.
there is plus sides to having a smaller like
Yeah.
event is that you get to make much more meaningful or longer, times to communicate with them and make a better connection with them. So it
Yeah.
could be a cool thing to do for
Yeah.
events
Yeah,
and stuff.
the If Gathering conference that we do every year, we've been doing rentals and floral for that conference for the last, gosh, 4 or 5 years. And before it was a trend to do that, they were already doing that.
Yeah.
It's a Christian women's conference, and they teach leadership skills and they teach a whole bunch of different things. And they had the opportunity to come in person, which was always here in Dallas, Texas. And they also had the option of people to stream in from all over the world. And I think this last one, they had 162 countries represented and
Yeah.
like thousands and thousands of homes that hosted people to do that. And I heard of a couple of these homes that were doing it, and they were like, it was so cool because we got to one invite friends, and then those friends invited other friends, and those friends invited other friends. And so we created this kind of small community of people who were all engaging in the same conference together, but it made it more intimate and made it more relatable to each other. We could have great conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
Me as an extrovert, when I go to a conference, I've been to plenty of conferences where I don't know a single soul, and I will go anyways, even though I don't know anyone, which is very odd for a lot of people. They're like, you would go and not know anybody? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'm going to meet somebody, and I naturally like to meet people. And so I was like, I'll go meet these various people and such. Even when I go to conferences, I usually don't sit with the people that I know. Like, I might hang out with them afterwards or in between sessions, but I don't like to sit next to people that I know, because I'm working on expanding my network. I'm working on expanding the people that I know. And now I know people in almost every single state, if not every single state, because I've met them at these conferences.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so cool to do. I mean, even if you are in these small little settings or at a big conference, meeting people that you might not know otherwise is really cool to do.
Yeah. For sure. We need to go to a conference in
I
person.
know. I know. I think the next one I have is in Vegas in August for NACE. So hopefully we'll actually be able to go in person. I guess
Yeah.
we'll find out soon.
We'll see.
We'll see. A lot can change, and it's Vegas. So you never know. Well, any last final thoughts around spring 2021 design trends that you have?
I think I kind of covered all of the ones that I was kind of seeing.
I
Yeah,
mean, there's
no.
a lot of different trends going on between fashion, between interiors, and they all like all time, they all simultaneously go together. And so it's
Mhm.
about kind of picking the ones that you want to go with. Certainly, like we've talked about in this episode, there's certain trends that I am not on board with that you are on board with. And
Yeah.
that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can choose the trends that I want to stay with. You can choose the trends that you want to stay with. And it's all seamlessly goes together.
Yeah. Love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in today to our episode all about spring 2021 spring trends. We would love to see you on our Instagram at therender.co. Tell us what you liked about this episode. Screenshot it and put it on your story and share it with us. And
Yes.
we
Let me
will,
read a review really quickly. Sorry.
yes, please read a review. We love reviews. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, scroll to the bottom of our page and there's a little purple button that says write a review. And we're going to read our reviews every week.
Yeah. Community over competition. This one's by Morgan Staten. Staten? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Morgan. Okay. This podcast, she did 5 stars.
Oh,
Thank you.
good.
This podcast has literally saved my life when it comes to my company. Leaving the corporate world to start an event business, I felt like I have no one to learn from and have no idea what I was doing when it comes to running a company. Cam is an industry leader and has been so transparent and honest when it comes to how she has created such a successful rental business. Her success didn't happen overnight, and she has chosen to choose community over competition and teach us how she's done it. She's saving me years of mistakes, and I'm so grateful. There's no other podcast focused on this industry. I've looked for years. I paired this podcast with her Rental Biz Academy. Highly recommend signing up. And I finally feel so confident and so armed to start this company off on the right foot.
Oh, I
So
love
nice.
that one.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
girl.
Morgan.
We're so happy to be a resource for you and so many others.
Yes.
All
Well,
right.
that's all we got for the day.
All right. We will see you guys next week on Wednesday at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time with another episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.